How are we doing, guys, and welcome back to Xaviesta TV. This is a reaction to Spain qualifying for next year's World Cup in Qatar, the 2022 World Cup, with a 1-0 win over Sweden tonight. And this is reaction to the game. So it was a tense one tonight, there's no denying that. It was a very, very tense game of football, but one moment of quality from Dani Olmo leads to a massive, unmissable chance for Alvaro Morata late on in the game, and Spain win it 1-0 and qualify for the World Cup. So the game in general, let's talk about the first half first and foremost. Loads of changes made, 6 changes I think it was from the game against Georgia. Yeah, and that was obviously in terms of momentum. It's not something that Luis Enrique is too concerned by in terms of losing momentum from making loads of changes. It's something he's done throughout his time as Spain manager, and tonight was no different despite the size of the game. But there was a lot of changes made tonight. A couple of surprising ones as well. I certainly didn't expect one or two players to start that did, but obviously the back four was totally different. But yeah, that was the decision that was made by Luis Enrique. Ultimately, the first half played out very much how you'd expect it to. Spain had 71% of the ball, I think, about 3 times as many passes, territorial advantage, all the stats you usually expect Spain to dominate. They did totally dominate, but Sweden had the 2 big chances of the half, both for Emil Forsberg. And I think certainly one of them he really should have scored, in all honesty. The first one, fantastic run from the middle of the pitch, 10-15 yards I think he carried the ball for, shot from distance from outside the box, just whistles past the post. Whether Unai Simon got a touch on it or not, I'm not sure. Forsberg certainly thought he did. Again, the replays weren't very conclusive, but either way, it was a decent chance that for Spain. Then the big chance came, crossing from the left-hand side from Augustinsson, and then Forsberg should score, in all honesty. It's just outside the 6-yard box. Yes, it's on his right foot. Yes, the angle's a bit tight, but I think an Ibrahimovic or a Isak is probably scoring that, and it's probably 1-0 Sweden at that point. So clearly something that Luis Enrique will not be very happy with in that kind of sense. But it was a frustrating 90 minutes for Spain, despite how good the result is in the context of qualifying for the World Cup, and the fact that the performance doesn't really matter in a game like this. It was all about the result, but there'll still be some frustrations, I think, because certainly for a perfectionist like Luis Enrique, who did say before the game, despite Spain only needing a draw to qualify for the World Cup, he would absolutely go for this, like Luis Enrique always does, 4-3-3, play on the front foot. There's no other way of playing football, and that is what's got Spain back to very, very close to being a top team again. But yeah, there'll be a frustration. They didn't create a lot, and they looked a little bit vulnerable defensively. Gave up some big chances when the game state was at 0-0, especially. And yeah, it's nothing new for Spain. It's nothing new at all. In fact, most games, 95% of the games Spain play, whether it's home, away, a qualifier, a friendly, or a World Cup, or a European Championship, most games Spain play, they'll dominate possession, and the team they play will sit into a low block, stay compact, and try and hit Spain on the counter-attack. It's nothing new that, in pretty much every game at the Euros, Spain had that situation. Even against Italy in the semi-final, I felt Spain got into that situation where they were pretty dominant, and it was just a case of trying to break down these teams. But without an Ansu Fati, a Ferran Torres, a Yeremy Pino, all these other different players, a Pedri as well, in terms of playing in the high 8 role alongside next to Xavi, it does make things a lot more difficult. There's no denying that the drop-off in quality from Ansu Fati and Ferran Torres to the next kind of best players in that kind of front three is big. It's probably too big, in all honesty. And I'm talking about Ansu Fati and Ferran Torres like they've experienced Spanish internationals. I don't think either player will have 20 caps combined between them. I think Fati will probably have about 5, Ferran Torres about 10, 15 tops. So they're hardly experienced Spanish players in that kind of sense. But they are very, very important for this team, and when they're not available in a creative sense, in a goal-scoring sense, you miss them massively for me, from a Spanish point of view, just for the pure quality that's missing when they're not there. But I think even ignoring that, even ignoring Pedri not being available, Eric Garcia, couple of other players as well, in fact half the team's injured at this moment in time, there'll be other names I've not mentioned there. There was a lot of sloppiness tonight from Spain, a lot of unforced errors. Sweden weren't pressing particularly high until sort of the last 20-30 minutes, but a lot of giving the ball away in cheap areas, overhitting crosses, just poor decision making, sometimes a little bit slow in the final third. And yes, the perception is of Spain that that's what Spain are, but it's not true really. And certainly under Luis Enrique, there's been a lot more. It's been a lot quicker, and so certainly in transition, very quick, one touch, two touch, making things happen. And I think sort of the first 10-15 minutes, Spain were very, very much. I felt Spain were very, very good in that first 10 sort of 15 minutes, but lost that kind of momentum from that point. And yeah, it is difficult to create when there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players behind the ball, and the team's so compact that you're playing against, and it's hard to create against. But that does make things difficult. But you've got to be honest. Unai Simon has had 2 or 3 moments tonight where he could have given Sweden the win. In terms of making silly errors, playing out the back, making the wrong decisions, putting his teammates under pressure. And it wasn't just Unai Simon. There's other players as well who just made uncharacteristic, poor mistakes. Pau Torres. I think that's his big strength is in terms of in possession. I felt gave the ball away or made some bad decisions in possession. Azpilicueta did. Jordi Alba definitely did. Jordi Alba I thought was pretty below par all night, in all honesty. It's certainly in an attacking sense and getting on the ball. Made some really, really poor decisions tonight. And yeah, it was just a really not a great Spanish performance, and probably the poorest I've seen Spain play probably this calendar year, in all honesty. And that's not, being too critical. There is players missing. It was a high pressure situation, and it did show a great mentality to keep the clean sheet and get the win at the end of the day. I think in terms of the last sort of 3-4 years since Vincenzo Del Bosque obviously left, and to be fair, even the back end of Vincenzo Del Bosque's time as Spain manager, there wasn't really that strength, in terms of being able to see out games and really fight and battle to see a game out. But this Spanish team is showing that, as I've said. There has been games where Spain have thoroughly deserved wins and not got them through missed chances. But tonight was quite the opposite, really. They were clinical when they got that chance. Alvaro Morata was uncharacteristically clinical, and absolutely fair play to him. He gets himself the goal and maintains his decent record in terms of goal scoring at international level. But yeah, it was a frustrating one tonight. There's no doubt about that, and there's going to have to be improvements made. But I think a lot of that will come from Ferran Torres coming back into the team, Ansu Fati, Pedri, all coming back into the team. And it was just in general a quiet game. And yeah, there was some positives tonight, some definite positives. Xavi, Olmo, Busquets, I thought were the 3 standouts by a distance for Spain tonight. Busquets, I mean, we've said a lot. Well, I said a lot in the last video about his Barcelona form, in terms of not being particularly great, but internationally he's been absolutely superb, and that's down to his manager. That's down to having a world-class, one of the top 5 for me managers in the world in Luis Enrique, in terms of getting the very best out of him. The positional plays there. Busquets can play one touch. He doesn't need to scan. He doesn't need to look. He knows exactly where Xavi is. He knows exactly where his other options are. He knows. It doesn't matter who plays in front of him. Rodri, anyone, Koke, whoever it is in front of him, he knows exactly where they're going to be. He can play one touch, he can play 2 touch, he can speed the game up, slow it down. He can play the game as he sees it. And from a defensive point of view, Gavi's work rate around him, the pressing power of Morata, etc., etc. It's a lot easier for Busquets in this Spain team. There's no denying that. And I think from a Xavi point of view at Barcelona, it's exciting times, because it is very exciting times for Xavi, though, in that sense, because he's going to implement a very similar style of play. It's going to suit Busquets very much so, in a similar way. There's no coincidence. There's a big difference between his Spain form and Barcelona form, and it's not been bad for Barcelona. It's just not the same player we associate in that kind of sense, in terms of Sergio Busquets. But yeah, Dani Olmo was very, very good as well, as I've already mentioned. And Xavi just felt like every single time he got the ball, he drove forward. And that's what you expect off Xavi. Again, he's absolutely unbelievable. I think there's the comparison being made that he's this year's Pedri and Pedri was last year's Fati. So yeah, it's very encouraging times in that kind of sense. And obviously, you've got 3 other top players to come back into the team. But yeah, I will definitely say this, that it's a worry goals-wise when Fati and Torres aren't on the pitch. There's definitely no doubt about that. I think Spain do need a centre-forward to emerge. There's no denying that. In terms of Pedri, Xavi, Fati we've seen emerge. They need a centre-forward to emerge as well for me. I'm not necessarily saying the centre-forward doesn't need to be the quality of David Villa, Fernando Torres, Raul. It doesn't need to be that kind of quality. And I think Morata is a good player. I do think Morata is a good player, useful player to have, can press well. Has got a goal in him, but is he going to be reliable enough in the big moments? Look, tonight he's got a big goal tonight, but let's be honest, it is an open goal. He's basically scored tonight. I'm just thinking more in the tournament, in the high pressure tournament, they need, for me, someone else to come through, just to maybe take the pressure off Alvaro Morata as well. Rodrigo Moreno obviously has been getting some goals for Leeds recently. As a Leeds fan, I will be mentioning Rodrigo Moreno a lot, but Rodrigo isn't really playing as a centre forward for Leeds at this moment in time. So again, he played on the right wing as well when he came on tonight. Raul Di Tomàs doesn't really look ready for me based on the 2 games I've seen so far. So yeah, I do think there's a centre forward problem at this moment in time. They certainly do need another option there. Even if it's a Diego Costa type of player, it doesn't really matter. Just someone who can put the ball in the back of the net on a consistent basis, just has that determination to score, determination to get on the end of things. Doesn't have to have brilliant link-up play, be brilliant technically, just get on the end of the chances created. Because in this Spain team, you're going to get goals from your centre forward. There's no doubt about that. But I do think they need that presence in the box, that constant presence. Because I don't think Luis Enrique fully trusts any of the centre forwards at this moment in time. He didn't start Morata tonight, and that kind of told its own story in a big game like this. Look at Isak for Sweden tonight. I don't think Isak's the full product yet. In terms of in the sense that he offers everything he can. I still think there's a lot of improvement for Alexander Isak, but someone like that, I think Spain do need to come through, an outlet, someone who can run in behind, get on the end of things. And yeah, it's a bonus if they've got technical quality as well. But yeah, I do personally think Spain do need that at this moment in time. And it's a bit of an unbalanced squad at this moment in time. With Eric Garcia unavailable, they had to play 2 left-footers at centre-back in terms of Pau Torres and Aymeric Laporte. But this Spain team does play the best football internationally at this moment in time. It just needs its difference makers back in the team. And I still think it can outplay anyone on its day. We saw it in that Italy semi-final. We saw it in that Italy semi-final in the Euros and the Nations League that it's well capable of that. So yeah, I think it's very encouraging times. Luis Enrique continues to do a top quality job, and it's a big year ahead. Going into the World Cup. But Spain are definitely one of the favourites. Ansu Fati, hopefully, he's got another year of development. As has Pedri, as has Xavi, as has Ferran Torres. Hopefully, when he comes back from injury, Eric Garcia. All these different options. The future's looking bright for Spain. It wasn't the best of performances, but the main thing was to qualify, and that's all I'm going to say, guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't done already. As I said, this is going to be a Spanish football-based channel. It's going to be me, an Englishman, talking about Spanish football. We're going to talk about Barcelona, the Spanish national team, and Liga in general. Or any requests you guys have, I will go through on YouTube anyway. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't done already. Plenty of content to come out for Barcelona this week, reacting to Xavi getting appointed. And I'm going to leave it there, guys. Hit that like button and smash the subscribe button if you haven't done already, guys. And I will see you later. See you later, guys.